to Drive Time Podcast Special Summer Spotlight Series, highlighting members from the class of 2023. The 2023 class started out in online classes during the pandemic in 2020, transitioning to in-person, and now graduating. I'm Caitlin McMahon, a fellow 2023 graduate, who is guest hosting this special series from our usual host, Dylan Stafford. And so today I want to introduce Mirwaise Masroor, a FEMBA 2023 who was nominated by his classmates to share his story. Mirwaise's classmates praise his positive attitude and hard work. He comes from a mechanical engineering, operations management, quality assurance, and supply chain management background, worked across multiple industries, and has recently made a career switch as a Spacecraft Manager. Welcome, Mirwaise.
Thank you so much for having me, Caitlin. I'm really excited for this. I'm very grateful for this opportunity, just to be nominated by some of the people that you're really close with and admire and respect. This is just overwhelmingly gratifying for me. So thank you for having me, and I'm really excited to talk about my journey and talk about UCLA and how much it's impacted my life personally. So thank you so much.
Amazing. We're so excited to hear your story, and I know the background, and it's amazing. So it's really inspiring. I'm excited for all the listeners to be able to get to know you more, and the things your peers said about you were just amazing too. It was such kind words, and everyone is so excited to hear about your whole journey. And so let's begin by talking about where you grew up. And you also gave some visuals, and I put together a deck. And so we're going to I'm going to share my screen so we can walk through a bit. For anyone listening on audio, we'll explain what we're seeing and talk about the journey. And it's also on YouTube on camera, so you could see all these amazing photos as well. So why don't you start talking about how you grew up, your background, your family, while I pull this up.
Yeah, absolutely. So this right here is like the most important thing that I want to bring up today. This is my story, right? So, it starts before I was even born. I owe everything in my life to my parents. My story really starts with them, right? So I am a first generation American, born in the US, right here. Okay, there they are. So this right here, this is like my whole world put into one slide, right? So you have my parents here, my sister as well, the little puppy Nala. But really, the emphasis of this story starts with these two incredible parents that I have, that are born and raised in Afghanistan. So they were born and raised in a third world country. And they immigrated to the United States. And it's not just, every immigration story is very unique. Every immigration story is very powerful. You can talk to people from all over the world and just get life-changing experiences. I want to highlight my parents because, there's what they've been through and the sacrifices that they've made in their life is really my why. Everybody asks you, what's your why? What's your purpose? My parents are my purpose because the pain and suffering that they went through in their life so that I could even have an opportunity to live mine and, live such a, pain-free life and be able to accomplish as many goals as I need is just really what inspires me every single day. When I wake up, I think to myself, how can I make them too proud? And, they came from Afghanistan, escaping war. They're both victims of war. And so, my dad came to the US just for education. And, this was the late 70s. And then my mom immigrated in the early 80s. And so my dad, when Russia invaded Afghanistan, he lost his entire family. When he was in the US studying for his education, his entire family was massacred. And, he had to drop out of school and create a living for himself out here. And my mom was still in the country during the invasion. And long story short, they basically had to get smuggled out of the country so that they could, escape to freedom. And in that, they were kidnapped, blackmailed, and experienced such things that I can't even fathom, right? And so for them to come to the US, try to make somewhat of a living, my mom worked 3 jobs when she first came because, working minimum wage. My father also made barely over minimum wage because he just wasn't able to, get the job that he went to school for because of his situation. And so they worked so hard and so tirelessly so that my sister and I could have the life that we have. And, she's extremely successful. She went to pharmacy school at USC. And then, I've been very grateful to be able to go to UCLA for my MBA. And so everything that I do in my life is to give back to these two people, because the lives that they've lived, and, my classmates, they always talk about my positivity. And my thing is, I get that from them, because everything that they've been through in their life, and how much tragedy they've been through, and how much suffering and sacrifice that they've gone to, they are the sweetest and most positive individuals that you'll ever see. You'll never see them not smiling. You would never know that they went through all of the pain and suffering that they went to, because of the way that they control what they can control, right? And that's kind of been what's been flowing down to me. So, growing up as a little kid, I've admired them my whole life. I cherish them, and I'm very, very grateful for every moment I get to spend with them and try to make them proud.
That's such an amazing story. And here's some more photos of
There they are, yeah.
family.
Yep. And if you see my dad, he's got a UCLA dad hat on right now. You see that in the picture on the left? He's very excited about graduation. He's got his he's got his little hat there. So yeah, they're just really, really special for me, and my inspiration every single day.
You could see how proud they are of your UCLA experience and everything you accomplished too. It's just such an incredible story.
Yeah,
And
I'm very,
so,
very blessed.
yeah. And so, from your childhood going to Virginia Tech and studying mechanical engineering, how did
Yeah.
you decide that degree, going to that school? And I'll pull up your graduation photo here.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So here, when I was growing up, I was always a math guy. Like, math was always my thing. I loved working with numbers. My mom was actually a math teacher. And so that's kind of what inspired me. She was pretty hard on me. She was like, you got to be good at math, right? There was a little extra pressure to be good at math. And I was very, numbers oriented. I was very lucky and blessed to, when I was, in grade school, we have honors math, but then we also had a gifted honors program, which me and 8 other students in my school were a part of, where we were essentially taking math courses that were 2 years accelerated, right? So we were taking 2 years ahead of our time. So numbers were always my thing, but then I was also just like a very hands-on thinker, right? Like, I was very mechanically oriented. I loved cars. I had a strong fascination with cars and how things work. I always wanted to, like, put my hands on things and see how they work and how they interact with other objects. And so, starting with Legos, right? Even so, that's really kind of what inspired me. And, growing up in Virginia, I'll also have to give them a shout out too. I grew up a Virginia Tech football fan my whole life. So it was kind of just meant to be. They had a top 15 engineering program in the country, and it was just a perfect recipe of everything that I needed pointed to that. And I wanted to stay in state, be close to my family. And so that's why I chose Virginia Tech. And, over here in the picture on the right is actually kind of gets into like what inspired me to come out into to California as well here, right? So while I was at Virginia Tech, we had to do part of our senior design project, which was the hybrid electric vehicle team at Virginia Tech. So this was a 4-year program that was sponsored by the U.S. Department of Energy and General Motors. And so basically, they donated a 2016 Chevy Camaro to 16 of the top engineering schools in the country. So you're talking Ohio State, Virginia Tech, Georgia Tech, a lot of the top engineering schools on the East Coast primarily. And we basically had to strip down the car to its frame and convert it to a hybrid electric vehicle. And so I was, basically leading the electrical sub team. And as a part of that, I got to go out to our final competition. Once we built the car, our final competition, we went to San Diego, California, and they actually, GM let us stay in the Hotel del Coronado for a whole week. So, imagine some of your best friends from undergrad, you get to stay in the Hotel del Coronado for a whole week. And I fell in love with San Diego and Southern California in general. And I made a promise to myself that day that at some point in my life, I want to live here. Like, this is where I want to be. This just seems like a place that would make me happy. And so, fast forward a few years later, we brought that into fruition. So yeah, that journey at Virginia Tech really kind of kickstarted everything for me. And I, forever grateful for that experience.
What an amazing senior project. I mean,
Yeah, right.
that's a lot of experience it gives you, and getting to go out to San Diego with your friends from undergrad. I mean, that is just
It
uh,
was a dream. Yeah.
seriously a dream. And so, what else brought you to your journey in Los Angeles? You didn't start your career there, right? You had a couple other steps that brought you out here.
Yeah, I've lived in 7 different cities in my time. I'm super lucky to. Oh yeah, well, let me actually start with this.
Yeah, I have a little photo
So
for.
yeah, this is a nice little embarrassing photo of myself. So fun fact, I'm a competitive powerlifter. I've been competing for 6 years, at a national level, right? So this was actually at the Arnold Classic in Columbus, Ohio, which Arnold Schwarzenegger himself hosts. But being from the whole like fitness side of things, I was always infatuated with LA, right? Like, oh, I want to move to LA, right? I went to the Venice Gold's Gym. I got to see Arnold and I got to see all these legends. And, I always told myself, I was like, man, like I fell in love with San Diego, but I wanted to go to LA because of the fitness side of things and the school side of things, right? Because I knew at some point I wanted to get my MBA. But yeah, this was a big reason why I moved out here as well, because I just wanted to be engulfed in the fitness world and see a lot of the people that I saw on social media. So that was definitely a big inspiration for me. But I had a lot of stops along the way. So I've lived in 7 different cities. So again, I born and raised in Virginia, and then I started my job at General Electric. So from there I was I was first an intern. First, I was an intern. Yeah, so fascination with cars here. That's really kind of what inspired me, to get into engineering. And then once I started GE, it was perfect. I first started working with GE Appliances as an intern up in Louisville, Kentucky. My first rotation was over there, and just a summer internship working as an operations leader. Did 2 more internships, with GE, jumped over to GE Power, and then I was very grateful to be accepted into their operations management leadership program. So that's essentially a program where they take a lot of their top intern talent pool, and you apply for this program. I don't know, maybe 8 to 10% actually get accepted. And then they're accepted into this rotational program, which is basically like a fast track to leadership to help people, young, early career people, really understand the values of leadership by getting them into rotations that have different types of experience, right? I've always been a huge advocate for rotational programs because it really, forces you to step out of your comfort zone. So this program was designed to, give you a role in supply chain, give you a role in operations, and then give you a technical role, right? So it could be an engineering role, something more like technical. But then you rotate, every 6 to 8 months into not only just a new role, but also a new location. So now I'm,
Wow.
fresh out of undergrad, and I got to live in Louisville, Kentucky. I got to go to Beaumont, Texas. Then I got to go to Wilmington, North Carolina. Then I got to go to Canton, Ohio. So I've really been all over the place because of this rotational program. And you're at a point in your life when you can do that, right? You don't have any real responsibilities. You don't have a family, and hope, wherever you are in your life, I'm sure everyone's different, but at that point, I just didn't have any responsibility. So I just picked up my life every 6 to 8 months and moved to a new location and got a lot of incredible experience in different industries too, right? Because I was working in appliances, then I jumped over to power generation, which there's 3 sectors there, right? So you got steam, gas, and then nuclear. And so when I graduated the program, I stuck with GE Nuclear. So this picture here to the right is actually me at GE, GE Hitachi. It's over in Wilmington, North Carolina. Beautiful, beautiful city. One of my favorites, actually. And when I was working there, I did one of my rotations there on program, but then I also had the opportunity, once I graduated the program, I took a role there. I took a role as a lead supplier quality engineer. So I took the quality route. That was there was a lot of factors that played into that. I thought it was one of, at the time, I was like, this is definitely one of the least stressful, but still technically challenging. I was still going very technical, and I wanted to understand the engineering behind things. But I found got kind of like a leadership role, not in management, but leading a team, which right out of the program, that was a pretty good opportunity. And while I was there, I also got to work kind of like as a manufacturing engineer. And we got to work on a really cool project. And to this day, this is probably the coolest project that I got to work on. This was, so in 2011, there was a tsunami in Fukushima, Japan, and it hit a nuclear reactor. And now you can imagine there's not many things that you can plan for when it comes to a natural disaster like that, right? And so the US Department of Energy challenged the entire nuclear industry to come up with what they call accident tolerant fuel. And so GE wanted to be one of the top drivers in executing accident tolerant fuel. And so I was very fortunate to be able to get assigned to this project. And I had one of the most critical roles within this. They basically took a young kid, gave him a bunch of tubes and end plugs, and I had to put together the entire weld development. So I did a bunch of engineering design of experiments, and I was just sitting in a lab welding pieces of metal together because basically we were changing the entire like metal process. I don't want to talk technical details of it, but we're changing the metals used for the nuclear reactors. And so we've never worked with this. So here I come along, just throw me in a lab with a bunch of pieces of metal, and I just start welding things together and trying to come up with the best parameters so that this is a strong enough weld to put in a nuclear reactor. And after 6 to 8 months of working very diligently on this with a couple of our other manufacturing engineers, we were successful. We became the very first company in the nuclear industry to have accident tolerant fuel in a customer reactor. And as a part of that, I was recognized with a GE Top Innovative Practice Award for 2018 for my weld development process that I had with GE while I was there.
That's
To this day, still the
incredible.
coolest project. Yeah, thank you.
I mean, what an experience. And you're how much out of undergrad? You're like, what, 22 years old doing it?
Yeah, it was like right out of undergrad. So to be thrown into that situation, and I'll really commend GE for that. I think when it comes to like, a lot of companies will be very like risk adverse and say like, we're gonna put really experienced people on these jobs or those jobs. When it comes to like just getting thrown to the wolves, you'll get those opportunities. And if you can succeed in that, yeah, very lucky, very, to be that young and get that type of an opportunity was super special.
It gives you the space to be innovative and use your creativity and all those things you really come out of undergrad excited to do. So that's an
Yeah,
awesome
definitely.
experience. Yeah, so what happened after that role? You got your top innovative practice award. And so what was the rest of your GE experience? And then you moved to a new company, right?
I did. And so this is, continuing the whole journey to LA. So now I'm working at GE still. I already finished program, working in this job. Loved it. Don't get me wrong. But to me, I was like, I'm 25. I'm living in a small town in North Carolina. It's a beautiful city, beach town, right by the water, some of the friendliest people, great food. But I want to live big, right? Like I want to live in a big city. I want to experience that while I'm still young and not having, significant responsibilities. And I always wanted to move to Southern California ever since I, went to my senior design project. And I was like, yeah, I call it my quarter life crisis, right? Like I had a quarter life crisis. I was telling myself, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it.
Yeah.
And so I just started applying to jobs, and not because I was, necessarily looking for a new job. GE was not in Southern California. And at the time, remote work was really not a thing. So I was just like, you know what, I need to find something. And then I was very fortunate to find a job with Raytheon. So now I'm changing industries altogether again, going over to the aerospace and defense industry, still in quality, but I got a manager role somehow, right? And so,
Awesome.
yeah, so it was my very first experience getting a manager role. I don't have any pictures from there because being in defense, it's a little bit more sensitive as far as taking pictures near the campus. But yeah, it was my very first manager role, and it was a foot in the door to get to LA, right? Like this was my goal. I was in North Carolina, and I knew I wanted to go to an MBA program as well. So I was kind of eyeballing like Duke, UNC. But then, I get to LA and I'm like, you know what? Now I'm eyeballing UCLA and USC, right? And so I'm doing this new role. And the entire time I still have the plan of, okay, I want to go to school. I want to go to school. It's 2019 at this point. I still haven't started applying. I'm being lazy. I get out to California and I'm just living the beach bum life. But so this role in Raytheon was fantastic, right? I was finally leading a team of people, quality engineers, on a program on the supplier quality side, on a very, big program for the company. And so there was a lot of roles, a lot of responsibility, and it's finally giving me that opportunity to be a leader, right? And to work with people. And so I did that for about 3 years. We had great success in that. We were in a competition program, and with other top space. Our customer was a top primary, Lockheed Martin, working with the government, and we were competing with another top space program as well. And through our leadership and our hard work, we were actually able to win like the second contract for what was the following work. So a lot of time, a lot of effort. I got to travel a lot in that role, which was very cool. Right? So got to audit other companies. So at that point, that's something that I really hope that people do get an opportunity to do at some point in their life is, working in like supply chain management or supplier quality, whatever it may be. You get an opportunity to look at other companies that are typically smaller companies, and you get to evaluate them from top to bottom. So you really get like this macro level, because a lot of times we get into a job and we're just looking at things like so small, and like, this is my role, this is my product, I got to design this, and so now you get to audit an entire company from top to bottom, their entire processes. So I gained a lot of valuable experience in that role. But then I got to like that 3-year mark, and now remember, I'm used to doing 6 to 8 months in a job, right? And then I'm
switching over.
Yeah, right. I'm like, what's next, right? Because now it's almost 3 years in this job, and I started getting a little bit of an itch, right? Like I want to try something new, and then that's actually, so 6 months into that role is when I started applying to grad schools, and I started my MBA at UCLA, and that's kind of like the pivotal moment where I'm like, okay, finally, like I've always wanted to get into more management and higher level business operations, and less on the technical engineering side. And so I'm applying to schools, and then finally, I got into UCLA and USC, and there was a lot of things that go into my decision making. Yeah, there I am. This is me being really excited the day the day after I found out that I got in to UCLA, because I had gotten into USC first, but I was still waiting on this one. I was waiting on this one, and what attracted me so much to UCLA was, first of all, rankings are always, they speak very loudly, right? And at the time, it was ranked higher, and I was like, okay, you know what, this is definitely something that I want to pursue. But then as I read more into it, especially the fully employed MBA program, it really kind of inspired me to think like, what type of network am I going to get? What's the alumni like? Who do I get to interact with? What are the type of students that are going to go to UCLA? What do they have? Because you're going to get top talent everywhere you go, especially once you get to like a ranked MBA program. But what are some of the similarities that I see into myself? So I started going to I started going to some of the info sessions, and just some of the feedback that I got from going to campus. But I think just actually being on campus is when I really felt like home. I mean, look at the buildings; it's beautiful. It's in a great area. You walk outside, and you're like in the nicest parts of LA too, and
Westwood is just great. I mean, all the places that you could go and
absolutely
hang out after class, and even the campus obviously is gorgeous.
Oh, it's gorgeous. I distinctly remember standing on top of the stairs right next to Royce, and just looking at the sunset. Like, this could be me every day.
Yeah, this could be my next 3 years.
Yeah, and it was, right. And so that was kind of like that pivotal moment for me, where it really kind of kickstarted a lot of changes in my career. So much has happened since I've been accepted into the program. Starting with my jump from while I was in Raytheon at the time, and then what ended up happening in the future too, which I'm sure there's probably questions about that too, so I won't steal your thunder there. But
no, we'll get into it very shortly.
Sure.
Because you had a great career change while you were here. But before we get into that, I was curious, how your rotational program and everything prepared you to go into the MBA program, because
Yeah,
I feel like that was such a great experience that you got to go to
yeah.
different positions and different industries, and so you almost had like a mini core year in a different way.
I'm so glad you said that, right? Because it's pretty special. Again, kudos to GE and the way that they do this rotational program. A lot of big companies, including the company I currently work for, have rotational programs, and they kind of really pioneered this idea, and it prepares you for so much because again, you got to be flexible. You got to be able to step out of your comfort zone because you're going to be doing jobs that you don't necessarily have experience in, right? Like I've never done supply chain before. I've never been an operations leader. I was 21 years old leading a team of like people who have 30 years of experience on the shop floor as machinists, and it's like, wow, how do you get out of your comfort zone to really kind of shape yourself into the leader that you want to be, right? And I think that's really kind of a lot of overlap into what I had to experience with Anderson, right? And balancing not just work, but balancing classes. How am I able to perfect my time management and also work on the things that I want to do to become a better leader, to become a better student, and just a better because it translates to your personal life too, right? How do you balance all of this and become so adaptive and flexible to be able to succeed in this very very difficult environment, right? You think, oh, I'll just go to work in the morning and class in the evenings. That's not a big deal, and you start to do it. It's
It's
exhausting,
hard.
right? It is exhausting. It's time consuming, and just as well as I do. It's something that I don't think I would have been as prepared for if I didn't have that experience in the past. So
That is a really great way to start the program, having that experience and being able to jump on in. But yeah, going to classes at night and work during the day, it definitely takes a little bit of getting used to,
it
but
sure
it's all
does.
really rewarding as you get through it. Once you
Oh yeah,
start and the classmates too, especially when we were in person, in my opinion, it
totally.
just makes it all worth it.
Yeah,
So
good point. Good point. Yeah, we had our first year of classes on all online because of COVID. So
yeah,
that was kind of another reason why I was like, I need to get into school now because I'm not going to do anything all day anyway in the evenings, right? So
exactly.
it kind of accelerated the process for me. So blessing in disguise.
Yeah, and I feel like it was such a unique experience having Slack to start off our connections and virtual happy hours. And so, and then going into the in-person experience, it felt like it was nice to experience both. Helped us with
Yeah.
adaptability, right?
Oh yes,
Good.
definitely.
So let's dive into Anderson for a little bit, and then we'll talk about your career change. What did you get involved with when you're at Anderson?
Yeah, so it's funny when I talk about like involvement in school. There's a lot of things that you can do, right? It's almost overwhelming.
Yeah.
And in hindsight, I do wish I got more involved. One thing that I really wish that I did was the FEMBA Council. A lot of my friends did do that, and they just they got such good experience. It's a great resume builder. But the things that I got involved in Anderson, my biggest priority was the networking events, right?
Mhm.
How can I put a footprint, get my foot in as many doors as possible, shake as many hands as possible, whether it was like joining a club, right? So joining a club, I did the outdoor adventure club because that's the easiest one to do, right? But then also just like going, we had like the beauty of UCLA is like you can just Slack someone and say, hey,
Mhm.
my name is Mirwaise. I want to do this X, Y, and Z. You can already see what people are doing. So just like setting up a quick coffee chat, doing things like that, just networking to be able to not only just build relationships and build a foundation for people who you may reconnect with in the future, but just like building some of the most genuine friends that I could possibly have. And then, kudos to the FEMBA, the council that puts together a lot of events, right? So we had a trip to Mammoth, we had a trip to Vegas. There's a lot of things that they put together to make sure that students do interact. I mean, every Thursday we have afternoons, and we're able to go and talk with other students. And I just think the amount of resources that the school has they have an infinite amount of resources. It really is up to you to take advantage of them. I feel like I did, especially towards the end, right? So like we kind of talked about it. COVID took away a year of that, right? And you know, I was very hesitant to get back into things. But once I did, I was just, especially over the last 6 months, now that we're getting close to graduation, I'm like, all right, I'm doing everything. I'm doing everything I could possibly do. Guest speakers is a big thing that I took advantage of, especially for the Easton Technology School of Management. That they bring in some of the top people from these big Fortune 50 companies, and it's like, I mean, just the network that this school brings and introduces from a guest speaker standpoint is beyond amazing. People who have real world experience, people who have inspirational stories, and just really understand what it means to lead a business and to just, you know, help other people become better leaders too. And I think that was just, I just remember being, you know, fascinated by some of these stories, and some of them are our own professors, right? Like our faculty is, we have a state-of-the-art faculty that's recognized in the industry. So, you know, I know you can see in all my gear. I love UCLA's, like, this, being a Bruin was just such a special moment for me. And so, yeah, you know, being involved in Anderson over here in the middle, this is actually my GAP team, right? This is my team for GAP. So GAP is a global access program. This is like your capstone project. You know, another shout out. There's a tremendous amount of things that you can do from a capstone, you know, side. You can go, you know, you can go down the entrepreneur route, or you can go down, you know, this is more of like a management consulting route. And I want to give a huge shout out to these people in the middle over here. To the left, you have Heather Scott. You're actually going to get an opportunity to talk with her. She's involved in this, and she's just a breath of fresh air. She was really the glue that brought our whole team together. So fun fact, I'm going to let her talk more about this because I don't want to steal her thunder. And in my opinion, she is the most responsible person for us achieving this. But our team actually won GAP, right? I mean, we got first place. We got from top to, what's
and
that?
there are so many teams in GAP.
There are so many teams and so many talented, amazing teams too, right? Like people who did some really incredible work with their clients. Some of the smartest people that I've ever worked with, some of the most hardest working people. Yeah, we from the start we got so lucky, right? Because these are all from Section 4, right? We all since day one we've been friends. We've been great friends. I mean, look at how happy we are to stand next to each other in this picture. We were just that was before we started GAP, and we were even happier afterwards, just because we just build such strong relationships, such strong trust in each other, knowing what our strengths and weaknesses were and how we can help each other in those assets, right? And you know. Heather was really the glue that really kind of kept us all organized, kept us all focused on the goal. You know, Ryan Khademi, he's in the middle there. Another just incredibly talented, you know, from a marketing standpoint, from a strategy standpoint, he's got all the tools that you need. He brings so much positivity too, right? He's a motivator. This guy's a natural leader.
Yes.
Yeah, you all
definitely agree with that. I'll echo. He is a motivator.
Yeah, I'll tell you. You know, when we were actually doing our travel in Finland, it was me, him, and Jeremy Shirts, who's over here on the right, and I'll get to him to give him a shout out too. Every morning we got up at 6 a.m. And that was Ryan, you know, who kind of motivated us to do that. And he was like, guys, we are in Finland. This is what we need to do. Like, we're not going to get an opportunity like this. And as tired as we were, you were like, yep, you're right. All right, let's go. Let's do it. You know, and so just such a great, you know, natural leader. And then you got Monica Campos. She got married during the time. So I always, you know, for the longest time, I kept calling her by her original maiden name. But you talk about one of just like the absolute superstars in the program. She's in Austin, Texas now. She got an incredible job with BCG. She's working as management consultant, super competitive job. Did it through the internship program, and then, you know, got the final job. So when it comes to just like one of the smartest people you can get in the program, and just such a joy to work with, you know, that's her. And then you got Jeremy on the right. Jeremy Shirts. He's our finance guru. So he's another one of those people. Every single person here, I know I say it, but like I genuinely mean it when they just bring so much positivity to the team, right? Like, so not only did his technical skills in finance and making sure that we're organized, from a budget standpoint, from a forecasting standpoint, all of it was just tremendous. And then showing up with a smile every single one of these every single day, because it's a tough project. It is a lot of hours. It is a lot of time. But we all came in motivated. We all came in very excited. And I think the biggest reason for that is because of that admiration and love and appreciation that we have for each other. So that that was the most rewarding and special thing. Before, without even like any other gap awards or any other accolades, we left that so happy because of the work that we did for each other. And I think that's what's so special about it.
Yeah, I went to one of your focus groups and this team was rock solid. So I can attest to the work you did during this program. But let's talk a little bit more. How was your team formation? How did you guys figure out how to put the team together and what skill sets you needed? You talked a little bit about everybody's different skills and how did it work to make such a great team together that really worked well throughout that whole project? It's 6 months of working with a team and you're putting a lot of hours in. I did gap also, you do a lot of hours. So how was that process getting into gap?
It was incredible. It was very organic, I would say. And I think a big factor of that is that we all already knew each other. We've all, not only just knew each other, but we were very good friends prior to then. Obviously, we took that to a whole new level through the program. But we really did kind of assign, what are people's, again, strengths and weaknesses, from an organizational standpoint. I'll admit I am not the most organized. I am only graduating because of Heather Scott, because she'll text me, she'll like, hey, did you do this? And I'll be like, I will now, and so, just having people there to support each other, I think was the biggest thing, right? I consider myself a very technical guy, very good with numbers. So Jeremy and I really worked a lot of the finances. And also just like from a research standpoint, we all, put in a lot of effort as far as, making sure that we can help each other in areas that we didn't feel as comfortable. But communication, I would say, is the biggest thing for us, right? Yeah. We were all open communicators, and we were all people who, we're not afraid to be vulnerable, right? And understanding that that's okay, right? And knowing that, I think one of the big things that really did help us, I'm going to give another shout out. Matt Gorlick does these exercises, the Big Five, and just I remember leaving one of those and we were just like, it was like an end of a sitcom show where you have such a like heart-filled moment because we're all just like, talking about being very vulnerable, talking about things that we don't feel like we're very good at or what we can do better. And then everyone in the room just goes and says like, well, this is what you do really well. And this is what you do really well. And I remember leaving all of that and we just like had this group text and we're like, I love you guys. It's just like, it was one of those things because, we understand like we're all human and we all have such busy schedules. And that was another big thing is like, not everyone is going to be able to be on their A game every week, right? So if I have a very big deliverable at work, I'm going to have someone else step up for me that week. But you know what? When you have your week, I'm going to be there for you. And I think that's just the mentality that we had. And it was very organic. It wasn't like we ever had to like sit down and say, hey, you have to do this, you have to do that. And, there's times when, we do have to get things done and some of us had to push us a little bit harder than others. And I'll be one of those guys. Like I'm a type B guy. I can get things done when I need to, and I need those type A's, to push me. But I just think it was just very, very, like the chemistry was just unbelievable. And I think that's really kind of what, and it doesn't hurt. Our project, because you're in our focus group, it made it life a lot easier when your client is making dog supplements. So your research is just, going to dog parks and interviewing dog owners and industry experts. So we were very passionate about the subject too, because who doesn't love dogs, right? And so exactly. we got to travel the world and interview dog owners. So I think all of that just made the whole experience very pleasant, and we just learned so much, right? I think I learned more about marketing than I would ever known because of Ryan's expertise, and it's just cool to see I always consider myself a sponge, and to see other people and how they tick and how they're able to use their strengths and what can I pick from them, what can I learn from them to, put in my own, arsenal and try to learn from that. So I think, that's something that you don't necessarily always just get from a class. And that's such a value of going to an MBA program. You got people from different backgrounds and you can learn all sorts of things from people that you never thought you would have, right? I mean, that's truly amazing. And that made that experience all the sweeter for us.
That's just amazing. And your trip to Finland, I want to touch on that for a second. For people that do not know, during GAP, you work with a global client. So typically it's a company that is from a different country. And usually you can travel to that country to do some research, work with the company, and it's a really great experience and a really big bonding experience too for the team. And talk about networking. I mean, you're with these people 24/7 in a different country. It's amazing experience with some of your favorite, people, your classmates. You're saying you're really good friends. So sounds like that was a really fun experience for you all.
I mean, what more could you ask for than traveling the world with some of your closest friends, working on an international project, right? I mean, first of all, our client was incredible. They were Aaron Tech. They were, again, they make dog supplements, and they were so friendly with us, and they hosted us incredibly well. For our GAP trip international, it was a boys trip. We actually code named this trip. We called ourselves the Baltic Boys. Because unfortunately Heather and Monica couldn't make it, but the boys, we went all the way out there, and we called ourselves the Baltic Boys because one of the things that our client showed us was they told us that, fun fact, saunas were invented in Finland. And so that's one of the things that they're really known for. And so they reserved that for us one day where we just got to go, just us three, and hang out. We went to the sauna, and then it's on the Baltic Sea. Right. And so we got to, and the idea behind it is, you reserve 2 hours, you can do whatever you want. It's like a restaurant, and there's food, all of that. But then, you go, the idea is you sit in the sauna for X amount of time until you feel like you're good. Right. And then the idea is you jump and you do a cold plunge into the Baltic Sea, and it's freezing cold water. And you're in the sea. And it's just like, it shocks your entire system, right? And so that's kind of why we tag named ourselves the Baltic Boys, because we got to do this incredible experience. And again, we needed Ryan's like hype video, speech to tell us, like, because I'm not jumping in a cold water by myself. I need people.
I don't think I could do it.
Yeah, so luckily he was able to step up to the plate and inspire us to do that. But yeah, that's why we got to do that. And just working with the team, and there's other GAP teams that are going to there at the same time, so we got to interact with them, and it made the whole experience so much better. And we learned so much, right? Because you see, one of the biggest values that the GAP program brings is we're so used to the way things are in our company, not just our company, but just like the US work culture in general. And I think it's fascinating getting an opportunity to work internationally and work with a different company that comes from a different background, different types of like work standards, and like how they operate. It's amazing to see, what do we do well, or what do we have things that we can improve on, versus like what do other countries do really well, and what are some things that they can improve on. So to get that type of opportunity, I don't think a lot of people get that, right? And so I think that's one of the things that GAP program brings to students that can really, really change your mindset. And I think that's one of the things that really hit us, right? Is, wow, like this is the way that, Finnish people operate, and you have to adapt to that, right? Because in order to have a good relationship, you want to adapt to whatever their standards are, and make sure that the product that they're getting is suitable for that. So, yeah, a lot of great learning, and just the food. No one get me started on the food. I'll do a whole podcast on the food because it was that good. But yeah, we got to have some very exotic meat. Ate a lot of reindeer. So apologies if Christmas got canceled. We're just kidding. But yeah, no, it was just a really cool experience, and just one that I'll remember for the rest of my life.
And it really is an unforgettable experience to go to a different country, learn how they conduct business. And I do want to quickly just shout out the fact of this shared success at Anderson is clearly a very actually happens, because you could see how Mirwaise just talked about all 5 of the other 4 GAP team members, and everyone loves highlighting each other's experiences and how successful each person was in all their endeavors. And it's really awesome to see how much Anderson people love to, and FEMBAs love to talk about their fellow FEMBAs.
Definitely. That's what it's all about, you know?
It really is. And is that part of why you chose FEMBA? Because I know you talked a little bit about like the culture of FEMBA. Is that something you saw in all your tours? Is that shared success with the networking and things like that?
Definitely. I think that is something that really kind of stood out to me. And even as far as just going on LinkedIn and reaching out to people, and now it all makes sense. Now that I'm on the back end of this all makes sense. But like reaching out to people who just have UCLA Anderson in their bio. And at the time, I didn't really have it, right? I was still like looking at the programs, but asking people about it, right? And like these are strangers. I'm like just throwing darts on a wall and saying, hey, I'm going to reach out to so and so and ask them about it, because you want to get an unbiased perspective. Because someone who I guess I didn't really know too many people coming from the East Coast anyway, but I really just wanted to get an unbiased perspective of, you know, what can I expect? And it's funny, if I were to reach out to random people on LinkedIn asking for advice, I'll probably have a very small percentage of people who will reply. But when you bring up Anderson, people were very passionate. And now it all makes sense, because like right now, if someone were to reach out to me and ask me about Anderson, and I've had this actually happen, like, you know, I've had friends say that their friends are looking at grad school programs and they're very interested in Anderson. And I just light up. I'm like, you know what, send them my way. I'll talk to them and they'll be a Bruin. I promise you that, you know? And so I think that's just like,
a Bruin.
Yes, yeah, exactly. You know, and so because I know how much of an impact that it's made on my life, I want to give that back. And I would actually like to share one more story about like when I did become a Bruin, that really kind of made me realize like this was my school. This was my school, and this is the reason why this all happened. And it kind of goes back to the whole story with my parents, right? And so kind of like my heritage growing up. So track back maybe like a year and a half, not getting into the politics and everything, but like, you know, when Afghanistan ended up finally, you know, getting taken over essentially, right? You know, US pulls out, and, you know, this is a third world country without anything to really defend themselves. And they basically were taken over in a matter of less than a week, right? And I just remember feeling like very heartbroken through all of that process, just because it's like, this is my home country. And I've never been, but I could see the expression on my parents' face and how devastated they are, right? Imagine like you basically lose your identity because, you know, this is no longer like your country and it's taken over. And I remember, you know, I don't normally do this, but I just remember posting something online on social media. I made a video, kind of a heartfelt message to kind of give people perspective about what this truly means, like how this impacts people's lives over there, and how it basically sets, especially for women, for children, and how it just like makes a transformative impact that sets the country back like hundreds of years. And I posted it, and it went viral. And you know, I was very fortunate. You know, a lot of people who didn't understand, they gave a lot of positive feedback and said, hey, like, thank you for sharing this. I didn't really understand this, but I'm really glad that you did. And like, for people who were in the same shoes as me, you know, they're like, we need to give people a voice to understand this. One of the things, one of whom reached out to me was the UCLA Anderson School of Management Instagram. And they reached out to me and they said, hey, we love your message. We are, you know, please let us know if there's anything that we can do. First of all, we want to share your message, which meant the world to me, right? Like I didn't like, you know, tag or reach out or anything. They just know that I'm a student there. They reached out to me saying, you know, how can we help? Are there organizations that you know? Is there ways that we can do, things that we can do to help you or people in this situation who are struggling? And I cried that night. I mean, to me,
I'm going to cry right now. That's incredible that
Please don't, because
they
I'll cry again. No, just kidding.
that's
But
just so incredible. They reached out
yeah,
without any prompts and
nothing,
just
right?
to say, how can we support and
Yeah,
hearing your voice behind that video, they're, being able to give another platform for people to really be able
yeah.
to understand deeply what's going on and the issues.
And that, yeah, that to me, I was like, that was the moment that, in a very devastating moment, and my
Yeah.
heart just felt so full because I was like, I was meant to be a Bruin, right? This school loves me, and I love this school back because of moments like that. And it's just that was my one moment where I was like, this was my school, and I'm so grateful that I made that choice because of it.
God,
But yeah, I
that is
wanted to share that because, really, it's like, what are the odds of that happening? Or, you just, especially when you feel like you're at your lowest, right? And to
yeah.
have the school pick you up, right? Because there's so many students. How did they even find that? It's like,
Right. There's like your
so,
friends from school, and there's classmates, and then the fact that the school found you or to support you and found ways to support are just incredible. You realize you have this whole community that
exactly,
is here to
exactly,
help lift you up.
exactly, exactly.
That I do want to share. Look, these other photos with your parents talking about your family and the influence UCLA has,
Yeah,
and the support that we're talking about. So I did want to share these photos next too. And I think it
yeah.
fits
Thank you for that.
perfectly
Yeah,
in the story you're just telling.
we're proud to be a Bruin. That's for sure. Again, it's changed. I think everyone in their MBA journey changes, right? I think that's natural. I think we all grow, we all learn
Mhm.
from experiences from school directly, right? Whether it's classes, whether it's people that we met in the program, whether it's experiences that we had as a part of the program. And I think it just kind of, it's contagious because people who aren't even like a part of it, or like they recognize it. They're like, man, like people who are in Anderson or people who are in UCLA really love the fact that they're in UCLA. And so
We do.
yeah, I think it's just something that it's palpable. It's in the air. You can feel it. And while I'm incredibly excited to graduate, it's going to be very bittersweet. But I'm surrounded by these two people who really kind of started my whole journey and started my why, my purpose in life. I do want to share one more actually. One of my favorite moments from my class at UCLA, and I'm sure some of my classmates have brought this up. I can. There are a lot of people who took a video of it. I can probably send it to you on the back end. I don't know if you'll be able to squeeze it in or not. But I want to fast track back to one of our core classes. This was strategy class, and now mind you, at the time, we were still wearing masks in class. This was one of that, like,
Mhm.
should we be in class? Should we not be in class? What's going on here? You got to take your weekly or twice a week or weekly. I forget now, but you had to do the COVID sample. So it was kind of like in that situation where like, hey, we want to be back in class, but should we? So we're all wearing masks. And so this is with Professor Cal. Shout out to her. She's fantastic. Um, and it's one of our, I don't remember exactly which lecture, but we're talking about Disney, right? And so this is business
Mhm.
strategy class. What makes Disney successful? What makes Disney tick the way that it does, and all of that. And so people are raising their hands. It's the brand, it's it's their strategy, their way that they can acquire other companies. And I was like, it's their songs, it's their songs. And so I was like, I think every single I just remember this clear as day. And uh, I remember raising my hands saying, it's their songs. I think every single person in this room has a song that they can tie, whether it's to their childhood or whatever, that really means something to them. And she said, Professor Cal says, do you have a song? And I said, of course I have a song. And she says, what's your favorite Disney song? And I said, the song from Mulan, I'll Make a Man Out of You. And she says, I think it was kind of like put him on the spot, dare him. But she says, would you like to sing it for us? And I said, absolutely. And so we're sitting there in class, and she just gives me the microphone, and I walk to the front of the stage, in front of the entire class, and I I went all in. I love this song. I know every single word. I'm doing hand motions. I'm doing a dramatic singing. I have a terrible voice, but like when I'm singing confidently, you'll think I got a decent voice, right? But like I'm getting really into it, and it's so funny. So Jeremy, who was also on my Gap team, he sent me one of his like recordings or whatever, and he's singing along. The whole class is singing the song now. So here we are, in a business class. You got a bunch of grown adults, and we're living like kids. And I think that was just like that was my favorite moment for myself as a student. And I think that was kind of like, I don't know if I'll, for some people, if I haven't had too many opportunities to talk with them, maybe I'll just be known as the Mulan guy. But it was just it was such an awesome experience, and to have everyone there, and we were all singing it, and the applause. And I think even the professor was very, very surprised that it ended the way that it did, right? Because normally, like, making someone sing in front of the class is a punishment, right? If you're late,
Yeah.
you got to sing in front of the class. But I've been waiting for that moment my whole life. Yeah. So,
Just give me the microphone. I'm ready.
yeah, just like it was awesome. It was so much fun.
That is amazing. Well, it's not a requirement that you have to have a song or sing a song in course year,
No,
but if you can, you're going to be the hit of the class.
Is that a specialization? Can I do
I think it should be for me for pitching that to Dylan.
Yeah, there you
go. Singing in MBA classes.
Yeah, we'll start that one. That's good. I love it.
Well, I want to dive into your big career change. You changed your career during FEMBA.
I did. Yeah, sure. And that was my goal the whole time, right? And it took me to the very end, but we did it. And so, it's funny, when I first started FEMBA, in my mind, I was like, okay, no pun intended, what's my best return on investment on getting an MBA? And so I was like, okay, well, do I go into management consulting? Do I go into investment banking? I highly value my personal life and my work-life balance. I think some people who are doing that route, I have the utmost respect for them. They're so driven. Some of my best friends are doing that, and I have so much respect for them. And I know they're going to be absolute superstars in this world. Like I said before, I have passions. I love powerlifting. I love, going on outdoor adventures. And I just didn't think that it was a good fit for my life as I started to really kind of learn more about that. And, again, kudos to Anderson for really showing people, giving good, lessons and helping people, guide them. We have so many resources, people that we can go as mentors and really kind of learn about the industries and those types of jobs. And I learned really quickly, like, that's not me. I do want to do a career pivot and get out of engineering and do something more management related. But for me, I was doing FEMBA, I was doing full time. I didn't even do OCR, on-campus recruiting. I didn't even do that because, I'm very fortunate that Boeing actually is helping pay for my MBA. And so that's why I was like, financially, it doesn't make sense for me to leave because I'm contractually obligated to stay with the company. And so, I guess I'll kind of backtrack. So last we talked, I was still at Raytheon. And I really I remember talking to my manager about how I want to do something different. I want to get out of quality, I want to get out of engineering, and I want to get into more an MBA type role. And, I think a good lesson learned, and there's a lot of things that I learned from that experience, and I think there's a lot of things that other people can learn, is like, what can you do to kind of get yourself in that position? And, it's without getting too much details. And I was like, well, I feel like I see my path going in a different way. And so I started, applying. Everybody in the aerospace industry, we call it the aerospace shuffle. They kind of just jump around and to new roles. My first career change within Anderson, I left from Raytheon and went to Boeing. Boeing is a company. I wasn't in the airlines. I was in space and defense, right? And so we built satellites on that side. But interestingly, I took what most people would call a drop in a career path. And I don't advise that for people in general, right? So I went from a material quality manager at Raytheon to a program quality engineer, where now I'm back to an individual contributor role at Boeing. And the biggest reason for that was I was looking for a new opportunity to get into management. And now it makes no sense that I took this engineering, individual contributor role. But at the end of the day, they offered me a 40% bump. And so I was like, well, if I have to work less and get a better job, I'll do that. And, I think I just had a lot of friends at Boeing too. A lot of UCLA students, actually, a couple of shout outs to Nate Golston and Remy Dang. They both work at Boeing, and they both told me fantastic things about it. And I had the pleasure of actually working with Remy on the program when I first came to UCLA to Boeing. So I got very lucky. Now, I've been at Boeing for about 13, 14 months now, and I've had 2 promotions. And so the first one came when I got this individual contributor role. When I was talking with my manager, I was like, hey, like, I'm coming from a manager role. Like, I do want to go into management. But the thing is I didn't want to, I didn't want to like run before I walk, and I wanted to really kind of understand how things work there. But anyway, I was, working this individual contributor role. I got stuck on a program, which was, you talk about luck, being in the right place at the right time. My manager, or the program quality manager there on that program, ends up going on vacation for like 2 months, and so, he's close to retirement. I'm sure he got an infinite amount of days. And so now I'm looking at the whole program's looking at me like, all right, well, you're the guy. You got to go in and execute. And it's at the most critical part of the program. We're 6 weeks out from launching the satellite, or shipping the satellite to get ready for launch. So, you're talking about, I'm in meetings with all the top chief engineers in the company at the Boeing El Segundo site, and all chief engineers, the president of commercial satellites, all of the top people in the company. I'm now going into these meetings, and I'm the odd guy out. I just started 4 months ago. But again, being in situations of adversity and knowing when to take advantage, right? Because sometimes you need luck, sometimes you need the right opportunity to come, but it's up to you to take advantage of it when it does, right? And so I told myself, I'm going to knock this out of the park, and I fortunately did, and I got really good feedback, from the customer, first of all, directly from the customer, from the president of the commercial satellites, and a lot of these top engineers, chief engineers, and again, it's a very engineering-driven company. So to get that level of exposure and to succeed in it, they did bump me to a program quality manager. So now I'm leading a team of quality engineers, up until a few weeks ago. And so now I got my own program, and now I had, 6 quality engineers that were, reporting to me, and, now we're working on our own program, and now I'm the direct person with the customer, internally and externally, being the program manager and the actual customer who we're developing the product for. Doing this role for, another 8, 9 months. And then something really interesting happens. And this is also one of the values of getting an MBA. You start to talk with other MBAs, right? And I've always heard that analogy. Sometimes people just get an MBA to be in a conference room with other MBAs. And I know it sounds silly, but there's actually a lot of merit to that, because one of the directors at our company was a USC, or he was in the USC program while I was in UCLA. And so we kind of like, we had a little bit of fun talking smack to each other. And he was in their executive MBA program, and just one of the smartest people I know. He's fantastic. He kind of taps me on the shoulder and he says, hey, I want to open up a rec, and I want you to take it. But we developed that relationship mostly because of, us both being MBA backgrounds. And then like me going to UCLA, him going to USC, it developed this sort of like understanding of, you understand people when they go through a lot of the experiences, even if it's a different shoe size, you're still going in the same shoes, right? And so
the shared experience that you could always talk about and have that instant connection.
Yeah, exactly, right. And so that kind of, and I talked to him transparently before that, about like how I do want to get out of quality. I do want to, do something more catered to my role. And, he's working in, he's managing like operations and all of that. So in spacecraft management, he's the director over there. And so he taps me on the shoulder and he's like, hey, I'm opening up a new role for spacecraft manager, and I want you to take it. And he took me to lunch, and that was way too good of an offer to pass up, because it's literally exactly what I wanted to do, right? Because, you know, it's no longer an engineering role. It helps if you have a technical background, right? And you actually understand how, you know, spacecrafts work, and how, you know, we build things, and how we test, and how we run into, you know, having a quality background and understanding how things are supposed to work. Now taking all that into what I wanted to do this whole time with Anderson is to get myself into a management position and get myself to a point where I can lead a team of people. Because now we're talking about a team of hundreds of people that are working on this satellite, and now I'm responsible for this, right? And so it's just like everything came together perfectly, more than I could ever possibly ask for it to, because it's the perfect role. It's what I've kind of been hoping for. Even when I was in the company, I could see the people who are working in this role, and I'm like, you know, the exposure that you get, the responsibility. It's going to be a stressful role, but you know, I think in my whole career, I've always wanted to step up to that level of expectation and adversity, and prove to myself that I can succeed, right? And then also prove to my parents that, you know, all of their sacrifices that they make, it's an investment, and you know, if I can make them proud and make them happy, that just means everything to me. So yeah, very excited about it. Just starting the role, and so I will be responsible for the next assembly, integration, and test of our satellite for commercial
That is just
internet.
so impressive.
Thank you. I'm so excited.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And the one that really caught me about the story for the first promotion is how you took something that some people would be very intimidated by, or maybe even upset. Like they're like, oh, my, you know, manager is out on vacation for 2 months, and there's this huge thing, and you made it an opportunity. So I think that's really important to highlight that mindset of in your story. And so I'd love to kind of talk about that a little bit more, because there's so many people that'd be like, this is, you know, can we get somebody else in here to help? Or, you know, there's a lot of different ways that people might handle that versus jumping in and saying, I'm going to, you know, knock this out of the park.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm glad you bring that up, right? Because, and it's understandable. It's not like, you know, I never, you know, I totally understand and empathize for people when they see that type of a situation. It can be overwhelming. It can be stressful, and you know, people should be forgiving to themselves if they feel like they get in that situation and they don't, you know, live up to their expectations that they want to do. But what I would say to encourage people in that type of situation is, you know, there's a finite amount of times that you're going to get those types of opportunities, right? And so it's really just a matter of like, when you do, you have to ask yourself a very important question. Would you be more disappointed if you had to like go through a lot of, you know, and don't be afraid to ask for help, right? You know, you can ask for help and leverage your resources, but would you be more disappointed in yourself if you look back, you know, 10 years, 5 years, even a year from now, and you say, what if, right? But I think the biggest fear that a lot of people should have is asking themselves, what if, you know, what if I did this? Or what if I did that? And if you're unhappy with where you are in 2 years, and you look back and you say, what if I took advantage of this opportunity, then maybe I have to suffer a little bit in the short term, you know, but what if I take this and turn it into something that I look back in 2 years and I'm going to be very grateful for that, because I didn't, you know, get too scared to see my true potential, right? I think that's, you know, it's an old Coach Carter quote, you know, like our deepest fear is like we are powerful beyond measure, and all of that. And I really do believe that, right? I think that like, you know, sometimes we're scared to push ourselves to our limit, but there's such a beauty behind doing that, because you know, you begin to build so much confidence in yourself, and you know, now you're going to put yourself in a position where you can help others who may feel that, and give back to the people that may need you to do that in their situation. So yeah, it's really just like one of those things that it's hard to like say the right thing, but I think you know in your heart when you do need that opportunity, and just please take advantage of it, because you might not get another one of those for 5 to 10 years, right? And it's hard. It's hard. It's a very difficult world to excel in, and you know, it's sometimes you just gotta take that leap of faith. So, and trust in
I love
yourself.
the concept of, you know, ask what if you want to
Yeah, yeah.
You do. I love that.
It's a
Um,
powerful thing, right?
it is really powerful. Take those
Never,
opportunities when they come.
absolutely, absolutely.
And then as you switch to your spacecraft manager role, you really showed that power of networking
Yeah,
in order to put yourself out there and say, I'm really interested in going this amount, to this side of management and of getting my MBA and bonding with people over the MBA. How was that experience? And maybe how did FEMBA prepare you to network better in your job?
absolutely. I think it's a skill, right? Networking is a
Mhm.
skill. It's very hard sometimes, right? And
Yeah.
I think especially for MBA students in the very beginning, there's a pressure to network, right? It's like, oh man, I'm investing so much money. I need to just meet as many people as possible. Some people take the more strategic route of like, okay, I want to make friends as much as possible,
Mhm.
but as far as like deep networking, who are people that I want to or I see myself connecting with that's, I mean, are selfishly advantageous for you because you relate to what they have done or what you want to do. So everyone's got their own ways of going about it. For me, it was just again being a sponge, right? I mean, believe it or not, growing up again, like I think I was very introverted. I didn't have a lot of self confidence. I didn't have a lot of these skills that it took to actually network, to lead people, and that takes conscious effort and time and understanding where you can improve. And I think it's just sharpening that skill because now you're meeting a lot of students, you're meeting a lot of people who are also very successful. They're in a lot of the same shoes that you're in. They're at the same point in their lives, and we have. I mean, it's intimidating how like some of the people that we have in this program, right? Because you got
We have,
people who
yeah.
are they've already done it, right? Like they're in this program, but they've already done it. Right? They're a VP of this or a director of that, but now it's just I want a couple extra letters next to my name. So it's kind of like you're talking to the people who you could potentially work for, depending on what job where you are in your career phase. And so I think like then it gets to blanking on the term right now, imposter syndrome, right? You get
Mhm.
into imposter syndrome where people start to wonder if they're not networking properly, like maybe this is not meant for me, maybe I'm not. But I think everyone goes through that moment at some point in there. But for me, it was more of just like first, how can I build a relationship with people? Right.
Yeah.
I don't want to just like reach out to someone and say, hey, like I'm trying to do this. Like, how can you help me get there? Right. I come from a small town. I come from places where I come from a culture that my parents raised me to really understand people, right. And genuinely care for other people. So that once you do communicate with them, they kind of feel like they're in a safe space and you're not just like, and I know it's different for networking, but like your ability to actually connect with people can be your biggest asset in life, right? Like, yeah, even though like I've got good technical background. I'm not the smartest person in the room. I enjoy not being the smartest person in the room because I want to learn from others. But like, I know that if I can build strong relationships with enough people who can help me and help them, help the whole team become better, then that's really kind of how you're going to become a better leader. And that's really what I try to leverage is how can I first really get to know this person, right? Because,
Mhm.
I don't want to just have like a very surface level relationship with a lot of the people who I want to develop a future with. So that was kind of, step one. And then step two is just, how do I translate this to the work environment, right? Because you need to,
Yeah.
especially in the next role that I'm in. It's a lot of management, it's a lot of delegation, and making sure that functions and teams are working properly and communicating with each other. So I can't sit here and do everything, but I need strong relationships because if I don't build a strong relationship with someone else, then that could potentially be a detriment to the team. So um, I think it's just consciously trying and being your genuine self, right? I think a lot of people can also read into, like if you're trying, I don't want to say trying too hard. I shouldn't say that, but like just be proud of who you are, right? Like don't try to be someone because that's who you think this person wants to communicate with. I think, being your authentic self is going, people are going to love and appreciate that a lot more than, okay, now I'm an MBA student. I have to try to pretend to be this way, or I have to try to, talk this way and be this person that I'm not. And just really admire who you are, because everyone's going to be a different leader. Everyone's going to have a different, career path, and just embrace that aspect of it, because I think you'll be the most successful that way, and you'll enjoy it. So, I don't know if that fully answers the question, but that's just kind of the route that I, really, really held strong to.
I completely agree. I think that networking is just so important to being able to create those connections that could help you with, your job, and just make your team better in general when you're working in your job. You're, making sure that your projects and the quality of work by leveraging each other's skill sets and building relationships. Kind of the last question I had for you, I really want to chat about, is your career journey overall has brought you to so many different industries: aerospace, gas power systems, nuclear fuel manufacturing, water process technologies. How has working across all of these the diverse industries affect your journey?
Yeah, I think it kind of just ties back to like what we were saying earlier, where you got to kind of just get into those situations where you have to be adaptive, right? I think it happens at a micro level, it happens at a macro level, it happens in your personal life, your career, your education. Um, you know, a couple things I want to highlight here. So the first one is, if I work in different industries, my biggest one thing that I'm very grateful is that, like, sometimes you get specialized in an industry, right? You get into this industry and now you're forever this type of person, right? But when you get an opportunity to learn from different ones, you learn a completely different system, a different way of thinking, a different process, right? So if I were to go to automotive industry, I'm thinking fast pace, I'm thinking lean, efficiency. How can I adapt to that industry? I'm in space and defense right now, a lot slower. We build one, we don't build thousands, right? And so there's a lot of value in that, because you're going to get an opportunity to be adaptive, be flexible, and I think that my experience in the rotational program really kind of helped that kick that off, and especially once I got into Anderson, and it'll take it with me for the rest of my life as well.
Amazing. Before we go into our quick answers, I do want to quickly chat about what this photo is that you sent in. Can you explain a little bit? You're on TV. What's going on here?
Yeah, Mama, I made it, right? No, go. I'm actually dropping out and I'm going to Hollywood. No, so yeah, this was actually like one of the really exciting things that I got to do while I was still in school. And I gave a shout out to UCLA, by the way, when I was on TV. Yeah, so I was part of the this new game show that just came out. They're originally in the UK on BBC, and it's hosted by Michael McIntyre, great comedian. And it's just this really fun show where you kind of just spin around a wheel and they have these topics. And it was kind of like my first welcome to LA moment, where I got to, someone actually just reached out to me on social media, and I thought it was like, a scam at first, because I was like, oh, I don't know what this is. Like, I'm not going to audition for this. Like, I don't even know who this person is. But when I looked them up on LinkedIn, it was like, oh, they work for NBC Studios. This is actually a legitimate thing. And so went through a couple of rounds, and next thing you know, I'm on TV, and it was an awesome experience. Got to meet a couple of celebrities there, which was very cool. Didn't win anything, but you know what? Like the value of the experience is worth so much more, right? It was something very special.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And that's kind of like why I always wanted to go to LA to begin with. It was like, what if I get one opportunity to be on TV? And so check that box, right? Maybe another time.
It's like the perfect LA experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Some entertaining, love it.
Yep.
And before, again, one more surprise thing that you don't know about before we go on to our quick responses is I just want to show you a little something that your nomination, one of the nominations said, about you. So I just love this, you know, again, how we we're talking before about this, we all love to share each other's success. And I thought it was so touching what they wrote about you. So I'll read it out loud. Mirwaise is one of the most compassionate and loving human beings you will ever meet. There isn't a single person in FEMBA that can or will say a single negative thing about him, which is a true testament to his character. One of the fondest memories that everyone in Section 4 has was when Professor Howe called on Mirwaise in our fall strategy class, asking if he had a favorite Disney song and knew the lyrics. Little did you know, not only did he know all the lyrics to I'll Make a Man Out of You from Mulan, jumped up in front of the class and sang it. He's incredibly smart when it comes to math, scoring in the top percentile for math on the GRE, but he's also terrible with deadlines. He was another major reason for his GAP team winning the GAP team award, and he has accelerated his career while in FEMBA, transitioning from Raytheon to Boeing. I can't imagine a single future FEMBA that won't be immediately inspired to join the program after hearing him speak.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know what to say. This is just like,
clearly the deadline thing's a little inside joke.
The moment I was telling you at the end of a
Huh?
I was gonna say, like the end of a sitcom, kind of like at the end of that GAP meeting that we had, and everyone just feels so heartfelt. That's exactly how I feel right now. I think I have a feeling I can definitely narrow it down to like 2 or 3 people who may have submitted it, and I'll have to text them afterwards. But wow, that's that to me it's just like that makes me feel so happy because you're gonna reveal? Okay,
I can reveal if you would like.
Sure, let's hear it.
So this one was written by none other than Ryan.
I figured those
which is the ode to the deadlines, which you referred to before, I'm sure, and you talked about with the GAP team. So
yep.
I'm sure that's where the inside joke is.
Saw that. That's where I was like, that's the giveaway.
He threw it in to help you narrow it down.
Yeah, definitely.
But, the nominations were all really touching. I just loved how this one talked so much to your character of, how you were confident to sing in front of the entire class. You're incredibly smart. You did these awesome transitions and how you inspire such an, the future classes of FEMBA.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That really did, that put a huge smile on my face. That means a lot. Thank you so much.
I'm just looping in. You guys have covered so much good ground. And I didn't know, Caitlin, you want to do, oh, there I go with the blue. I take so many notes. Why don't we loop in Heather too? Since we're doing, all right. Cause hang on. This is all bonus surprise if she's available. She may not actually.
Yeah, I just saw we went over.
All right, there we go. So this is a surprise for everyone. All right. So the aforementioned Heather from the incredible winning GAP team is our next interview tonight. We're on a Monday night, and just we haven't even gotten to the Andertakes round yet, Heather. But I wanted to just kind of bring you in. Caitlin just revealed one of the nominations for Mirwaise that was actually written by Ryan, your group mate. So just wanted to, now I've created an awkward pause. Sorry.
Happy to be here. Happy to join. Hi, Mirwaise.
Hi, Heather. We talked a lot about you. I'm just so excited that you get to share your story because I know I tell you this all the time, and I just want other people to know that like you just inspire so many people, and the amount of like positivity that you bring, the amount of guidance and the natural leadership that you bring, it's a testimony to who you are as a friend, as someone to work with. And I know that my time at Anderson would not have been the same if it wasn't for you. So thank you for that.
And I feel exactly the same way. I feel like I would not have been able to get through the last year without the positivity that you have brought every single day.
Mirwaise made it sound like some of his assignments would not have gotten
Thank you for
turned in. Mirwaise made it sound like some of his assignments wouldn't have gotten turned in without your appropriate nudge. Nothing like an appropriate executive nudge.
Yeah. Yeah, I told them I wouldn't be graduating if it wasn't for you.
I think that's how he said it specifically.
Yes, that is exact quote.
Always happy to help out all the people I care about.
Oh, thank you so much. You're such a sweetheart. We're so grateful for you.
Well, Caitlin, you wanna run the lightning round?
Yeah, let's do the quick lightning round.
We'll add some pressure. We'll just be a live studio audience.
Perfect. Are you ready for this?
Maybe.
Are we doing this together? All right, let's do it.
We can do it together. Should we let's go for it?
Oh, well, I didn't mean to, if you want to, or else we
Yeah,
can
if you want to do it together. It's the questions that the fast quick undertakes section that we're asking everybody on the summer spotlights. So first one, best class at Anderson.
Well, I think
For me, I would say tech management.
Amazing. And Heather, do you want to just do yours on your recording?
Yeah, happy to let this one be all Mirwaise.
Okay. Okay. So,
just to make it easier. Best memory from FEMBA.
that's tough. I would have to say either Gap, the conclusion of Gap, or singing that Mulan song. I don't know.
That's a really big toss-up.
I'll go with the song.
Sounded both great experiences.
Yeah.
Favorite professor.
Yeah. And I'll highlight the best part about that GAP program is when we were doing our final presentation, when Ryan and Monica got up there to stand, you should have seen the smile on Heather's face. She looked like the most proud person that you'll ever see on the planet, just to like see them embracing this moment. So that was very special.
I love that. Your favorite professor.
I think I'm gonna have to continue with the tech management trend and say Professor Kramer. The way he orchestrates a class is just, it's an art. I mean, he's so engaged, he's so knowledgeable, and he's able to make sure that students are getting the most out of the class. And I think that's very, very impressive.
People love Professor Kramer. I mean, he's an amazing professor. I feel like we hear this over and over again, how awesome he is.
Absolutely.
We sing his praise, all of us.
Yeah.
Your best core year memory.
Best core year memory. So again, like I guess core year was in COVID, but like when we finally got to do a hike with our learning group, because like it was the first time we got to like meet in person. So going on that hike was pretty cool because it's like, wow, you're a real person and I can actually talk with you. So
I love that. And favorite Slack channel.
Gotta go with section 4. Gotta stick with my day ones.
The section Slack channel just always will continue forever. And
yeah,
you get so
definitely.
close to your core year or your core group.
Always.
And your advice to future and current Anderson students.
Kind of piggybacking on what I've said earlier, is just enjoying the journey, right? The ups, the downs, take it all in. Don't be afraid when you do feel a little bit of imposter syndrome, and understand, like, stay true to who you are, right? So like, be confident in yourself. Understand that if you be your genuine, authentic self, people will gravitate to that. You'll build relationships. Because ultimately at Anderson, what I've realized, especially over the last year, is you do get what you put in. You know, I think when I first started, I wasn't putting as much, but once you actually do invest your time, your effort into this program, you get so much out of it. And then I know I've said it 100 times, just be proud to be a Bruin. I mean, Heather's a double Bruin. She knows what it feels like. I never thought that I would go to grad school and be that passionate about my school, but I'm very grateful to be.
That's amazing. And I want to give you a space for any final thoughts. If there's anything you wanted to talk about that we might have not covered, anything there.
I think we covered everything that I wanted to talk about. You know, again, thank you for your time, both of you, Dylan and Caitlin. Thank you, Heather, for joining, and I apologize for going over the time limit.
No, it
I
really
like
isn't
to
a
talk
set
lot,
time
so
limit.
Okay.
Oh, and I
Right.
wanted
do
to
have class at 7:10 also, so.
Ooh, we're getting close.
I wanted to dovetail that
It's
also because
okay.
you mentioned each other earlier, and that's really fantastic. Or are we making you late to class or almost? No.
I'll still graduate in 11 days, but I'll be there in time.
We're not going to derail it tonight. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And how about you, Caitlin? Any last thoughts from your perspective? Great job.
I just think this is a great story. I mean, every aspect of your career journey, and you're such an inspiration for so many
Thank you.
current students, for people that wrote the nominations. I mean, there's some of the nicest things I've ever gotten the opportunity to read about you. And I just think that everyone's going to be really inspired by this story and hearing your journey.
Well, thank you so much. It's an absolute honor. Very, very humbling. And again, I owe it to the people around me that really kind of help and inspire this story. So thank you so much.
Well, it's just fantastic. So we'll officially be done, but I'm going to let it roll for just a minute or two more. Great job, Mirwaise and Caitlin. Thank you for the structure.
Yeah, no problem.
Bonnie Kim and I, my fellow assistant dean, we're kind of like sister from another mister. And we think so many of these drive time stories have the American dream woven into them. And I get chills, right? It's your deep respect and appreciation of your parents. And I mean, not just the story that they lived, but then what they chose to do with their life energy for you and your sister, and then how high you and your sister have aimed and achieved. And it's cool. That's such the not appropriate. There's got to be a better adjective than that. It's cool. Come on, Dylan. You like language? Try to say something a little bit. It's like
inspiring. It really is. I mean,
yeah.
There's just to see how you've built your career, and the opportunities you've taken along the way to make to get where you want to be. I mean,
thank you both for
incredible.
that.
And I had the pleasure of meeting Mirwaise's parents this weekend, and
Yes,
I can
you did.
honestly say they are every bit as wonderful as he probably described them. So the apple does not fall far from the tree.
Yeah, that was super special. I'm glad we got to share that, because it kind of made everything full circle for me. So thank you, Heather, for saying that. That means so much. You'll never know. So thank you.